Hello, my name is Karen Mikeu, and this video is the first in a series of videos that I'm hoping will continue for quite some time. I'm calling it AI Insights, and basically what I'm wanting to share here is when I am attending some different programs and events, when I come back and I get my takeaways, my opinions, my perspectives, and put them together here so that I can share the information from my personal point of view so that I keep the conversation going and raise awareness and get more people involved in these very important conversations. So to kick off this series, I had attended virtually an event in May 2024. It was a 3-day event hosted on Singularity University, su.org. It was called The Future of AI, and it was so amazing. It transformed how I understood this moment of time and why it's unlike any other moment of time in terms of technological innovation, and really turned up the volume on my sense of responsibility and in sharing this information and expanding this conversation for more people. So if you are interested in learning about the program themselves, you can go to this website, and down at the bottom you can purchase access to the recordings. Just to be transparent, I have no affiliation with Singularity University. I'm just a big fan. Hello. And so I get nothing if you go and purchase this. I just highly recommend that if you have any interest in any of this type of information, you definitely should go get it directly from the source. I do not consider myself a super technical person, but I got so much from this, and I'm going to be sharing my own takeaways and perspectives about some of the information that was presented. These were some of the speakers at the event. Again, every single one of them is so deep into their focus in this field of AI, and I've seen these replays a few times at this point, and each time I pick up a new little piece of information that I hadn't been aware of, hadn't picked up on the first or second time. So really recommend you kind of go check this out if you like what I'm sharing here. To be transparent, so I'm going to be giving you a presentation, my presentation, on their presentations. And this is probably, I think, my 5th video I've ever made, so I might stumble a little bit, and I ask for some grace on that as I figure out how to share and connect this information out into the world. So again, this was my insights, and I highly recommend you go watch the event replays yourself. Singularity University is not endorsing me, but I'm just really super excited to share my opinions, my takeaways, and my own fresh perspectives about what I learned. So this first video of mine is on the very first session of the 12 sessions that they shared over the 3 days. And the first speaker was Aaron Frank. And he really helped frame my mindset around how we got to this point and why it's unique and why it matters and why we should be paying attention. So I can't do justice to his entire 1-hour presentation, so I'm just grabbing the bit of it that I really helped reframe this moment in time for me, and I'm going to share that in my own way. So this is Aaron Frank. He's a researcher, writer, consultant, over a decade of experience in Silicon Valley. He is a principal faculty at Singularity University and has earned his MBA at Oxford. And his deep knowledge field is augmented and virtual environments. He did a second session during the 3 days, and I'll be sharing information about that field in another video. For now, I'm going to stay focused on this first one where he talked about helping me understand exponential growth specifically. So let's get started. So in this presentation, the exponential growth in technology, we're going to talk about the pace of change in technology and why it's accelerating, the emerging technologies that are driving the rapid pace, and also just understanding this growth and ensuring that we take part in the conversation so that we ensure that AI reflects the richness and fullness of human experience, and that just also that we're aware of where the biases are so that we can navigate those effectively. So exponentials, I really wanted to sort of, maybe some of you remember from high school algebra, maybe this was the worst subject that you had. I promise I'm going to do my best to make it super simple. I just have to, I'm going to be saying this word a lot. And so I felt it would be important to at least make an attempt to explain it as best I could. So we might remember how with exponentials there's this doubling effect, and for a long time it doesn't really seem to be doing a whole lot, but then at a certain point it takes off, and then the growth on this exponential curve is unlike anything we might have otherwise expected. Here's an example of an exponential curve. This is the human population growth from 10,000 BC, and you can see it's just sort of motoring along here, not really kind of doing a whole lot of anything. There was actually a little dip around here with the bubonic plague, but then right around here we get this curve right here, and then the Industrial Revolution begins, and that was a big milestone technologically for us as a species, and all of a sudden we get this exponential hike up. So that is, I feel, one way that I could connect this idea of an exponential curve in a way that hopefully feels a little bit more accessible than a high school algebra graph. So one of the things that Aaron started his presentation with was a definition of innovation, because that's another word that I'm going to be saying a lot of today. And I really appreciated his take on it, his definition of it. And he basically said that innovation is essentially coming up with solutions to problems that we care about. I loved that. I think that's a great definition. And I really appreciated the integral way that he kept pulling the presentation back to this idea that why we're even coming to these types of events and why we're even wanting to learn about this information and why any of it really matters is because a lot of these technologies and innovations are on this exponential curve. And if we don't understand that, there's this point at which it seems like what our expectations are and what it actually is in the moment, there's just this disappointment that can happen, and we end up pivoting prematurely, and we never get to that full fruition of what that solution could have been, and we never get the full benefit of the idea, the innovation. So that's why this whole sort of conversation, although it's a little bit maybe dense, it's really important to take a minute and explore it at least. I know that by the end of this program, this video, you're gonna have some connections that you didn't have coming into it. So I hope you'll stick with me. And as a special bonus for bearing with me through this little bit of a fumbly-stumbly video of mine, at the end of it, I'm going to give you a demo of a little use case for ChatGPT that I really not sure how many people use it in this way, and it's been really useful for me in my learning journey. So I wanted to share that with you, and so you can look for that at the end of the presentation. I'm hoping you won't just skip to the end and get the treat, but if you do, that's okay too. It's all good. So the other thing that comes up in this whole conversation a lot is this idea of experimentation for innovation. At the heart of innovation lies this process of experimentation, and usually it's like we build something, we measure it, we learn from it, and then we like rebuild it or do some other pivots and shifts and whatnot. And this has historically taken us a lot of time to really do this. A lot of people, a lot of tools, a lot of technology, a lot of materials that maybe we have or don't have. And that has been part of the reason why a lot of these technologies up to this point have been very slow to see a huge amount of progress with, and we can tend to be a little disappointed along the way and say, oh, never mind, it's never going to work. So one of the things Aaron mentioned in his presentation was that in this irreducibly complex world, we don't always fully understand why certain solutions work. Some of these experiments that we run provide us with clues and working theories. Other experiments lead us to these really effective solutions that we may not entirely understand, but that doesn't stop us from deploying them, from using them. So this iterative approach here is essential for driving progress and creating innovation through breakthroughs. Now we bring into this conversation, so we've got the exponential curves and we've got the innovation, which is solving problems we care about, and we're talking about experimentation cycle and how long that's been taking. Now we come into the AI revolution, and this has been accelerating the innovation cycle through dramatically faster experimentation. We now possess the technology to conduct countless more experiments in dynamically less time than ever before. And this transformative capability is what makes the current era of technological advancement so profoundly disruptive. This is unlike any other technological evolution at any point before, and I'm going to help you see why in a little bit. By leveraging the power of AI, we can rapidly iterate, test, and refine these iterative solutions to tackle even the most complex challenges. It is, I don't just want to read these slides, it's just such good information, but essentially, in order to really fully maximize the potential of this innovative moment in this time that we're in, we got to understand and start to look for these exponential curves so that, like I said, we don't leave a possible solution to some very big problems that we care about without getting to the full fruition of the solution. So, what has our journey been to this moment? Here we're going to explore a little bit about some of the things that have happened up to this point, and that's going to give you a better, more real-world sense of how the exponential technology works and why in this particular moment it's creating this disruption that we're seeing. So in the spring of 1997, or I should say leading up to the spring of 1997, experts were imagining that we were still decades away from having a computer that would be able to mimic human intelligence. And the way that they were sort of measuring that was saying, once we have a computer that can beat a human in chess, that's going to be a pretty big accomplishment. And so in the spring of 1997, IBM's computer Deep Blue had defeated a world chess master at the game of chess. And that sort of sent some shockwaves, like, well, we didn't really think we were here yet, but there you go. And while that was amazing in its own right, in the days that followed, there was a news article that came out, I believe it was the New York Times, that basically said, when are we going to have a computer that can beat someone at the game of Go? And why that mattered. So chess is played on an 8x8 board. And so the computing method that was used to beat the grandmaster, it was called brute force computing. And basically the computer would calculate all the possible outcomes and choose the one that was going to have the best option of resulting in a win. And with the 8x8 board, yeah, there were a lot of permutations, but it was still within this calculating power. That said, you couldn't really use that same sort of computing method for some of these very complex issues that we face as in our, in our humanity here. So the game of Go is played on a 19x19 board. And so basically, Aaron had mentioned that there are more possible outcomes on the game of Go than there are a number of atoms in the universe squared. So there's no amount of brute force computing that could really consistently beat a human at this game. And so that became the new sort of bar to reach. And they said that would signal a significant leap in computing power if that were to happen. Eventually, I guess what the experts were saying at the time in 1997 was that we were probably at least 100 years away from that, if it was ever going to be accomplished at all. Turns out it only took just under 20 years. So they really missed the mark on that. They weren't even sure if it could ever happen. It happened actually about 20 years later. The thing that made this possible was a shift in technology from a brute force computing to a machine learning method. And that just expanded the computing capability to such a degree that the innovation happened far more quickly than ever before. That machine learning is what is currently driving most of our AI large language models, for example. And it's on this exponential curve that wasn't really easy to see, but now we're starting to see this disruption point where still is in some ways seeming to be in its infancy, but in other ways, the potential, if you know where to look and how, you can see the potential and the wealth of opportunity that we have here, unlike any other time in our history. Right, the leap to machine learning. So this, again, is highlighting the rapid advancement in AI technology, and that happened far faster than expected. So why were the expert predictions so far off? Just the human mind struggles to understand and even recognize these exponential technologies in the moment. And so it creates this exponential gap between predictions and reality, and that highlights the challenge of forecasting rapid progress driven by the compounding effects of unforeseen breakthroughs. The human mind is wired for this linear thinking, which, again, we can imagine linear just is sort of more of a straight line versus an exponential curve. And so it's just difficult to recognize, and prediction errors can happen in governments, companies, and this all affects our personal lives. The most common is misunderstanding the pace and the impact of exponential growth. So recognizing that our minds even make these errors can help us in making better decisions so that we can leverage innovation more effectively. So I'm going to try to bring this, I found this diagram very useful to really showcase what I'm trying to refer to. So this pink line here is our expectation. This is our linear expectation. And this blue line is, of course, the exponential curve of a technological innovation. And so you can see, let's say this was when ChatGPT first came out. Our expectation is it would be up here a little bit, and it was kind of falling short. We'd get into ChatGPT and we'd ask it some question, and it would give us some general answer, and we'd be like, okay, that's not really all that useful or valuable, is it? I wanted to just add there, it doesn't mean that it's not, and I have discovered a way of working with it that is unlike, I just don't hear other people talking about it, and it has to do with sort of exponential evolution of our personal transformation. We can get into that another time, but sometimes we have to allow that our linear minds block us from even being able to see the amazing advancements that are right in front of our nose. So as we go along here, our expectations seeming to keep rising, but the exponential technology is still kind of lingering down below, and it creates this gap here of disappointment. Eventually, we reach this point where the exponential technology crosses our linear, where we would expect it to be, in a very quick and sharp way, and that creates these moments of great disruption. And all of a sudden, we're thrown into this chaos and amazement and stress and opportunity. And it's very difficult to predict, but if you know what it is, then you can start to at least try to look for it before you make a decision around here about, oh, this just isn't working. Let's just dump this project and move on to something else. So I need you to keep that one in mind a little bit as we continue to talk here. And if I could get my slide to go down. There we go. Okay. So yes, our thinking is linear, but technology growth is exponential. Later on, I'm going to explain a little bit about why that is, and show some real-world examples that might help unlock that realization for you in a very real and tangible way. And this mismatch leads to understanding future advancements. So if we can develop more of an intuitive understanding of exponential growth, that is crucial for us navigating this very chaotic AI revolution that we're in right now. That development of our intuition is what my community is really gearing up to help people unlock for themselves. We always have had our intuition, but it hasn't been we've lived in a world that favored learned knowledge over intuitive knowing, and that has served us very well up to this point. But as more of our knowledge gets transferred up into the AI and becomes available and accessible for anyone who knows how to string a sentence together using these large language models, having the knowledge becomes less important in a way, and knowing how to intuitively access that information for a given use case all of a sudden becomes way more important. So that is what I'm seeing for our future here, and that's why I've created this community called Cathartic Clarity to try to help people tap into their intuition and start using it in a more consistent and reliable and beneficial way. One of the reasons this linear thinking happens that gets us a little bit into trouble sometimes, especially when we're talking about an exponential curve, is something called an anchoring bias. And essentially what that is we look at something that's happening and we look back and we see the amount of time it took for that change to happen, and we anchor to that idea of that rate of change, and we project into the future that same sort of rate of change. And that's where we get into a little bit of stickiness. So that anchoring bias can prevent us from making really accurate predictions about the future of technology. This is why we struggle to engage with exponential functions in the real world, and this leads to moments of chaotic change and missed opportunities. And just by understanding that these exist, we can better navigate and influence AI's development. So now I've got a little bit of fun for you. I'm going to take a drink here. Hold on. Got my peppermint tea here with me. This is a thought experiment for you. So if, completely hypothetical, if I were to say, if I were to give you, which would you want? $1 million today or an exponential penny that doubles every day for the next 30 days? Now, I'm sure that some of you might be saying, I'm taking the $1 million now because I might not even be here on day 30, so I'm taking the cash and running. Some people are probably thinking, well, it seems like a trick question, so I'm a little bit of a gambler, so I'm going to go with the penny, the exponential penny. Well, let's play it out and see who's right. If we project ourselves to day 5, we can see that the penny on day 1 turned into 2 cents, which then turned 4, 8, 16, 32. So by day 5, we've got 32 cents. Yay, right? No. If we can do that pretty quickly in our head, and we can go, maybe I'll take the $1 million now. Fast forward now to day 15. We are locked into this. We decided we're taking the penny anyway. Our linear thinking would say, well, we're halfway through the 30 days. We should probably be somewhere around $500,000. But we're only at $327.68. Ooh, that seems like not enough. How can we possibly get to $1 million if we're only at $300 and there's only 15 days left? Because the mind isn't good at exponentials, we feel like we're not on pace to win. And that's why it's right around this moment that a lot of projects get killed and technologies get written off and concepts get dismissed. On day 27, finally we broke $1 million. Yay, we made the right decision here, right? But wait a minute. We've still got 3 days left. With exponential curves, most of the accumulation happens in the final few steps. Here we are on day 30, and we now have that one exponential penny is now $10,700,000, 10 times the amount of the first option. So you can see how this doubling pattern basically says that every step is the equivalent of all previous steps combined. And this really helps to illustrate the counterintuitive nature of exponential growth. It also highlights how small, consistent effort can create massive impact. So this model kind of helps shows up in and influences decisions in governments and corporations and in our personal lives. If we're relying on status updates and progress reports, that can really mislead us to making some unfortunate decisions and pulling the plug on things before we really need to do that. So recognizing an exponential pattern can help us avoid premature decisions so that we can capitalize on innovation and growth. That's all well and good, but what drives exponential growth? How can we recognize it, if it is even happening at all? That's what we're going to talk about here. Well, we talked about the power of doubling already, that each step is the equivalent of all previous steps combined, and that the final steps accumulate the most significant gains. The reason why this is creating such chaos right now is because this isn't just happening with one technology. Technological advancements in computing methods, like from the brute force method to the deep learning, machine learning methods, was a huge leap. But then we're also getting the convergence of technological advancements in so many different fields: robotics, 3D printing, autonomous vehicles, blockchain, artificial intelligence, digital biology, nanotechnology. And so all of these things are converging, plus they're all growing themselves. And so it's just creating this very disruptive moment in our life right now that is unlike any that has happened previously. So Aaron had pointed out in his presentation, he said, we have seen more change in the last 50 years than we've seen in the last 10,000 years. And this rapid pace of technological change underscores the need for inclusive AI that benefits all humanity. Let me see what this point was, helping you recognize that exponential growth of technology over time. Yeah, so I guess the point of this program was to just really help me at least understand that, to know to look, at least consider looking for something like this before I make a decision to pivot in some kind of way. Next. All right, in December 2016, this is one example of this incredible rate of change. New York Times Magazine had printed an article, and in the article they said that I think it was Google Translate. Let me just see my note cards here. Google Translate. So up till that point, somewhere around December of 2016, Google Translate had been using a computing method called guess and check. And then they had developed this other computing method, and they flipped the switch on it one night to switch to a deep learning, machine learning method of computing. And this was what the article was saying. The AI system had demonstrated overnight improvements roughly equivalent to the total gains the old one had accrued over its entire lifetime in one night. So that is an example of this shift in technology from guess and check to deep learning. Just really forced this pace to change exponentially in a way that nobody really understood or expected. In order to understand this, what the exponential rate is and why it actually works the way that it does, Ray Kurzweil, who I believe is the founder of Singularity University, had written an article, I think it was probably 20 years ago or something. We can find out after the presentation. It was called The Law of Accelerating Returns, and it was a theory of change for systems that are able to improve upon themselves. Essentially, computers specifically have been doubling. Every time there's an advancement, it doubles and doubles and doubles, very much like the penny. Initially, it's doubling, but it doesn't really seem to matter all that much until all of a sudden you reach this threshold, and now one single doubling is throws us light years ahead. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and that's why I'm trying to share this information. One of the reasons we can see this in our real world is this idea. There's this law, it's called Wright's Law. I don't know a super amount about it, except that when you have a bigger market, like consumer electronics, for example, when consumer electronics market grew bigger, there was more demand, and more demand forced there to be better, more efficient production methods to be developed, which led to cheaper goods. And when you have the cheaper goods, that goes back and now unlocks an even bigger market. And so this cycle kind of repeats over and over. And technology gets cheaper and it becomes more available to more people. And that is sort of a part of the democratization of technology, making it accessible to all. And we are seeing that democratization right now today at a scale that we have not seen up to this point in our lifetimes. So what are some other real-world examples of these exponential growth, and how is it shaping our world in tangible ways? Just taking the idea of the computer chip design, back when we were originally creating computer chips, we had physical drawings and line diagrams and chip architecture that took a lot of people, a lot of time, and a lot of experimentation and iteration, and we had to have the materials and the tests and all of these things, and it just took an incredible amount of time. Now we're using computers to design better computers, and we're able to speed up that innovation cycle, that experimentation cycle, dramatically. And this self-amplifying feedback loop is what's driving this technological progress today in a way that's not been available before because of this machine learning method that we've unlocked. Some more history. So in 1957, IBM had created a computer called Q7. It cost $10 billion. It weighed 300 tons, and it could perform a whopping 70,000 calculations per second. And I believe it took up like the size of a building or something like that. So that was cutting edge back in 1957. I believe it had one client, the U.S. Air Force, and that was cutting edge technology. 40 years later, we had ASCII Red, which cost $50 billion. And the reason this was a huge development in technology was because it was able to do 1 teraflop of calculations per second. That was like really, really a huge milestone back in 1997. Not all that long ago, 26, 7, 8 years ago, right? Here in 2024, the iPhone 15 Pro costs about $1,000 and runs 34 teraflops of calculations per second. So this was one of the most eye-opening, relatable examples that I got from Aaron's presentation about this decentralization of technology that just really helped me understand this curve, because 25 years, this from here to here, 1957 to 1997, 40 years, this only took 20-something years. Sorry, I'm not very good at math in my head. So here was another example I found from a different presentation in 2007 versus 2017. 3D printing in 2007 cost $100,000. Today it costs $100, so that was a 1,000x price drop. Drones in 2007 were $100,000. In 2017, they were less than $100. Biotech, 2017, $10 million for one DNA profile, and in 2017, it's less than $100 for one DNA profile. So this really showcases, LiDAR sensors on cars. In 2007, they were $20,000, and in 2017, they were $200. So this was a 100x price drop. This really does showcase how technology is becoming faster and cheaper, more available for everybody, and the technology is just exponential. And the innovation, because we stuck with the innovation, the exponential innovations, we've been able to achieve a lot of advancements as a society because we stuck through the exponential, painful part of the exponential curves. Next, almost done here, guys. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Really appreciate you. So, yes, it can take humans decades to create new materials. Very recently, there was the robotic computer that was able to create 41 new materials in 17 days. Let me say that again. It can take humans decades to create one new material. And this AI-driven technology had created 41 new materials in 17 days because the computers have a way of doing it that we just can't. That iterative, that experimentation cycle, they can just run right through it, and we end up with some significant improvements sometimes without really fully understanding why that works or how it happens, which is why I say we need more people involved in these conversations so that if we aren't fully understanding what's happening, we should at least be informed about that it is happening. And that's going to be hard to do if we don't have this conversation publicly with a lot of people from a lot of different disciplines, from everyday life up to the highest boardroom. In April 2024, AI started being used to create the training data to accelerate AI development. So AI is improving upon itself in an amplifying way, and that is important for a number of reasons. We got to make sure that we're getting a lot of diversity, right? We're baking diversity into these AI models so that they have a more complete picture of the fullness and richness of human experience. We are about to experience centuries worth of innovations in the next 10 years. I'm going to say that one again. We are about to experience centuries worth of innovations in the next 10 years. We need people involved in this conversation. We need everybody involved in this conversation so that we can try to use this to help shape ethical and inclusive AI in service to or in service with humanity. So to wrap it up, as we've seen here, exponential growth of technology is transforming our world at an unprecedented pace. AI is both a driver and a beneficiary of this rapid innovation, creating a compounding effect that will only accelerate in the years to come. The compound effect of exponential growth is due to the convergence of exponential improvements in various industries, and that's what's driving this. Okay, there's a little kid screaming outside my window. And I'm 50 minutes in. I'm just going to keep going. I apologize. He sounds like he's just yelling at his brother. Anyway, it's really important. Just knowing all of this is helping us to navigate and leverage this exponential growth for societal benefit. So why are we experiencing it today? Again, it's that convergence of exponential improvements in various fields, and it represents a huge opportunity for us to get involved and to help shape the development of AI in an ethical and inclusive way. And the rapid advances we are witnessing across these multiple domains, from computing power to machine learning breakthroughs, have created this unique window where the potential impact of transformative technologies is greater than ever before. One of my little soapbox issues is that we need to make sure that more people are sharing their stories, their perspectives, their experiences from everybody into these language models, into these AI models, so that they have this fullness and richness of human experience, so that as corporations and governments are creating new products and services and policies and technologies, they're using these language models to inform their decisions. And without that fullness and richness of human experiences and perspectives, I feel like they're going to miss the mark in a lot of really important and serious ways. So again, my community is geared towards helping people understand what this point is in time, learn a bit about how to use the technology, and to share your voice, share your story, share your perspective, because humanity really does need your voice. This growth underscores our responsibility here. It's not just an opportunity, it is our responsibility to participate in this conversation to make sure that we all benefit. Well, look at that. Picture failed to center correctly, but that's okay. I'm just going to keep going here. And so if you are still here, I thank you so much. If you want to connect with me, you can leave a comment on the video. You can see me at my website. You can book a 30-minute call on my Calendly if you'd like to talk and learn more. My community is catharticclarity.ai. If you want to get in there and learn about this and take part in this cutting-edge community that is focused on this cutting-edge moment in our lifetime, I would love to have you in there. Bottom line, regardless of what you do, again, get involved, share your story, because humanity needs your voice. Now, for the bonus content, I'm going to give you a little demo of ChatGPT, a little use case that I have been using that I find makes learning, especially things like this that might be a little bit more dense, so much more interactive. So I'm going to come over to ChatGPT, and I'm actually going to open my... So here in ChatGPT, I have my conversation thread. If you're not familiar about where ChatGPT is or how to find it, you could just Google ChatGPT, but you could also go to OpenAI. They are the company that is ChatGPT is their product, and you would come to their product and you would just go to ChatGPT login. And when you get there, you would be able to use it a little bit without even logging in. But if you wanted to save your conversations, you would need to create a free account, which is providing your login information. They also have paid accounts, which give you some extra benefits, including image generation, faster response times, more responses, things like that. But when I was learning last September 2023, I just had the free version, and I used the free version for 4 months, and it was within that time that I unlocked my inner genius just by playing around intuitively with ChatGPT, the free version. So it's got everything you need, and you're not really essentially missing anything by not having that. That said, the use case. So whenever I go to these types of courses and seminars and events, I'll usually end up with a transcript somewhere, somehow. And especially with a program like this that was so dense and had so much information that maybe was even a little bit over my head, a lot of times I like to come into ChatGPT. And so what I'll do here is I'll find my transcript from this first session of Aaron's, and I'll drop it in here. And I'll say, "Hi, ChatGPT. Here is a transcript from a recent event I attended. Please provide a summary of the key points." I like to kind of say, for someone who is not super technical. I like to kind of start by saying this because that makes sure that ChatGPT kind of brushes through the entire transcript and familiarizes itself with this conversation now that I want to have. So let's see what we got here. It talks about Aaron Frank, his experience, the main concepts. Oh, I guess we'll find out how good I did in my presentation. I should mention that this part of my presentation, I only covered really not even the full first half of Aaron's 1 hour presentation. It was so good and so deep, but that was all I could sort of bring back to you at this point. We talked about the exponential growth. We understood the exponential growth and the impact of exponential growth. We talked about the law of accelerating returns, which was the article by Ray Kurzweil. We talked about technological advancements. We did not get into the 6Ds framework. I could do that in another video. And challenges and considerations, future outlook, not too bad. The Q&A that they had, this was really great. I'm going to ask it, when was the law of acceleration published? So I wasn't quite sure about that date. So now it's going to go search and find that information for me. March 7th, 2001. So yeah, 23 years ago. On kurzweilai.net. So basically what I'm trying to demonstrate here is when I have a transcript from an event that I went to, I drop it in here, and now I can just have a conversation about it. I can pull out information that maybe was or wasn't in the presentation, like this date was not necessarily specified, but here I can get the information about it anyway. I can ask it to explain exponential growth to me as if I am a 5-year-old. Let's see what it says. Imagine you have a tiny seed on the first day you plant it in the ground and it grows into a tiny sprout. Now think about this. Every day the sprout doubles in size. So if it starts as a tiny sprout that's just 1 inch tall, the next day it's 2 inches tall, the day after it's 4 inches tall, then 8, and so on. Exponential growth means something keeps doubling, getting bigger and bigger really fast. Just like how your sprouts keep growing twice as tall each day, things that grow exponentially get bigger and bigger very quickly. So this is just fun. And then one thing I like to do, so to help lock in my learning, I might say, please generate I'll just say 5-question quiz to help me lock in my learning. I'll just go with that. All right, now we're going to take a little quiz together. So question 1, what is exponential growth? The type of growth where something increases by the same amount every day, doubles in size at regular intervals, grows very slowly, grows and then stops. All right, so I'm going to say 1 is, what did I say, B. Why was the game Go considered a bigger challenge than AI than chess? Because it's played on a smaller board, fewer possible moves, many more possible outcomes than chess, because it's easier for humans. No. Question 2 is C. I remember because the possible outcomes for Go is roughly equivalent to the number of atoms in the universe squared. In the penny doubling thought experiment, how much money would you have at the end of 30 days if you chose the penny that doubles every day? Well, we all went through that pretty well, so I'm going to say 3 is D over 10 million. What concept explains why technology develops at an exponential rate according to Ray Kurzweil? That was his article for B. And last one, what is one reason why humans often underestimate exponential growth? Because they're not good at math? Because they think in linear terms? I think we covered that, yes. Because exponential growth is very rare? No. And because it is too slow to notice? No. B, 5B. Enter. Oh, it gave us the answers. Great job. You got each answer correct. Excellent. Yay me. So anyway, I just wanted to share that fun little use case with you. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I feel like at the end of every video, I'd like to do some little use case. I have a whole sort of back pocket full of special use cases that I don't see many people using up to this point. So I like to try to put those in here and there. So if you enjoyed this, I hope you'll like, subscribe. Feel free to tune in. I'm going to try to do one of these videos. I would love to do them every day. This one took me a week to really prepare for, so they may come out once a week. But my goal for right now is to go back through the next Singularity session, which was number 2. Number 2 was Hod Lipson. So I'd love to, he'll be the next. I'm going to just keep doing one presentation after the next, pulling out some topic that really resonated for me and sharing my views and perspectives on it. Singularity, again, has no, is not supporting me in any way, and they have not approved this message whatsoever. And so always do your own research, and thank you so much. And I hope this was fun and informative, and I hope to see you again another time. Bye.